Okay.
Yeah, so I don't forget to start recording. Okay, cool. We are streaming live. Okay, do you want to, we could quickly review 41 and 42, and then we'll spend a little more time on 43, which is kind of what we're supposed to be doing today. Okay?
Okay.
It was, so how far have you gotten specifically? Have you gone through 40?
I think that. Oh God, what did we do? I think the last year was 40.
Okay.
That was on Monday.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Yep, that's it. Okay, so let's look at 41 and 42. And let me switch my camera. And let me get that a little bigger. Okay, so the Nervi had just attacked the Roman camp under Quintus, that was under Quintus Cicero's control.
Mm-hmm.
Then the leaders and the princes of the Nervi, who had some sort of approach of speech and caused a friendship with Cicero, said that they wanted to speak. The power having been made, meaning that given the ability to speak with them, the same thing which Ambiorix with Titurius, and remember Titurius is Sabinus.
Oh.
The same thing which Ambiorix had done with Titurius, they related. And what is that? Well, that is all of Gaul was in arms. The Germans had crossed the Rhine. And the remaining winter quarters of Caesar were being attacked. And you notice the passive infinitive there. All three of these are indirect statements of what they related. So, and if you notice, this is exactly what Ambiorix had successfully tried with the legion under Coda and Sabinus. They added also about the death of Sabinus. Ambiorix showed for the sake, they showed Ambiorix, he's the direct object, for the sake of making faith, right? And this is a gerundive there. And remember, the gerundives with calsa or gratia always show some sort of purpose. They say that those heirs who anything of aid from them, or who hope anything of aid from them, who distrust in these things. They, however, were of this mind. And you notice this hoc animo esse, that's to be of this intent. They felt, right? They were of this mind against Cicero and the Roman people, that nothing except the winter quarters did they blame. They blamed them nothing except the winter quarters. And they did not wish this custom, consuetudinem, hanc consuetudinem, this custom to become old, like to become customary, right? So essentially what they're arguing is like, yeah, we don't have anything against you, Cicero. We don't have anything against the Roman people. We just don't want the winter quarters, and we don't want it to become like this standard thing that happens all the time.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Which is very similar to what Ambiorix argues against Sabinus and Cotta. I love Caesar. He did all these great things for me. If you remember, like he let me free from taxes and he released this. I just don't want my people don't want this winter quarters. Well, of course they're lying. They're trying to get, just like Ambiorix, they're trying to get Cicero to leave the camp.
Mm-hmm.
It was allowed, and again, in infinitive, because this is still part of that indirect statement, it was allowed to them unharmed through them, meaning through the Belgians, from winter quarters to depart. It was allowed for them to depart from winter quarters through them, unhurt, in colonialibus. And that's stated because it's just describing that Illes. Yeah. And into whichever part, quascumque partes, into whichever part they wanted, without fear, to set out. Like it was allowed for them to set out without fear to wherever they wanted, right? And again, if we're relating this back to Sabinus and Cotta, Ambiorix argued that Sabinus and Cotta could take their legion whether either to Cicero or to Labienus. Those were the two closest legions. And I love Cicero's response, though. Cicero responded to these things in only one way, that it was not the custom of the people of Rome to accept conditions, conditionem, from armed enemies. Like, so he doesn't even like, Sabinus and Cotta went to a council, they discussed this, and they had this long debate throughout the night. Cicero just responds immediately. Like, no, the Romans don't accept conditions from armed enemies. If they wished to depart from arms, they could use him as an aid. Adiutore is a helper. And they might send messengers to Caesar. That they could obtain imperatorus esse. They might hope to obtain that which they sought through his justice. So we don't accept conditions from armed enemies, but if you put down your arms, then you can surrender to Caesar. They, of course, don't like this. The Nervi, this is the Belgian people that here are attacking. The Nervi, repulsed by this hope, the hope of convincing them to come out so they can ambush them, encircled the winter quarters with a wall of 9 feet and a ditch of 15 feet. These things they had learned both from the custom of the superior years from us, meaning that like the Gauls, having fought with the Romans for 4 years now, have learned some of their siege techniques, and they had been taught by those whom they held captive from the army. So these are Roman prisoners of war. But with no supply of iron tools, the root word here is ferrum. Ferramentum would be an iron tool. So this is, and this here we have ablative, this is genitive. So with no supply of iron tools, which were suitable, idonea is an adjective describing the quine, which were suitable for this use. And the use is building a trench and a wall. They strove to cut. Caspides is like the turf, the ground, the grass, with swords. So they don't have tools, they're using their weapons to cut the grass. And they hauled away the earth with their hands and with cloaks. Indeed, such from this thing, the multitude of people was able to be learned. Kognoski again is our passive infinitive. It was able to learn the multitude of the people, the number of the people, of the Belgians, from this fact, from their building, because they have no tools, but nam menus oris tribus, you know, it's the ablative there of time, in less than 3 hours. And what is this millium pedum?
I don't know.
This is it's a distance thing. Literally 1,000. It should be this is a well, is it the same as 1,000? Oh gosh, now I could be drunk. I'm not quite sure. 1,000 feet, maybe 15,000 feet. Is that the same as millia passus or passum, which is a mile? I would think not. I would think it'd be like a lot less than that.
It says 15,000 feet.
Yeah, so that's, I think in my video yesterday, I wasn't even reading this. I was reading this quickly and I read millium passum, which would be 15 miles, but this is just 15,000 feet, which is, I guess, a third of that. So it's like 5 miles-ish, right? 15,000 feet, that's about 3 miles, right? 3, 4 miles, I don't know. And a Roman mile isn't exactly the same as our English, isn't the same as our English mile either, although it's relatively close. So 15,000 feet in circumference, they completed the fortification. They completed the fortification in circumference of 15,000 feet in less than 3 hours. So without tools and using swords, their hands, and their cloaks, they do a wall and a ditch 15,000 feet around. In the remaining days, towers to the height of the wall, falques are like grappling hooks, and these are like siege sheds, literally turtles or tortoises, and siege sheds, which they had also learned from the same captives, they began to prepare and to make. So this is the Nervi building all of these essentially Roman siege weapons in order to take the camp. Oh, and actually, I think I included this in my video yesterday too. In the 7th day of the fighting, with a great wind having risen up, nice ablative absolute there, burning fuselages, what's the burning launching, what's the term I'm looking for here? Oh no, it's like not fuselage, but molten. And glandes is an interesting word. It can mean like it can mean acorns, but here it's like shots from a funda, a slingshots. So burning molten slingshots from clay with slings and having lit on fire spears, they began to throw into the huts, into the houses of the camp. So they're launching molten clay, like red hot clay, and burning spears into the Roman camp. And these houses were roofed, tectae erant, they had been roofed, according to the custom of the Gauls, with straw. We'd call this like thatching.
Mm-hmm.
So the buildings, the homes in the Roman camp had thatched roofs, which of course lights on fire. And so the Belgians start throwing flaming things in. And there's a wind, remember, a strong wind is kicked up. These quickly caught fire, comprehenderunt ignem, seized fire, and the wind spread it, carried it out forth. The wind by its size carried it forth into all parts of the camp, into the whole location of the camp. Okay, so the Roman camp's on fire now. And this is what I want to read. This is what I want to focus on today here. Okay, were there any questions about those last two sections?
Do I have any questions?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And again, you can go back and look at it more closely. And the last two videos, I go through it a lot more slowly. So.
Okay, got it. I guess, okay, so like they ask Cicero, like they try to convince him to leave and he says no. So then the Nervi just attack.
Yeah, build siege weapons, and start trying to light the camp on fire.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, build siege weapons and encircle. Oh, it should be noted the encircling. Remember that the Romans themselves have a wall around their camp. But it's really common siege technique to build a counter wall. So both the defenders would have a wall and maybe a ditch, and then the besiegers would also have a wall and a ditch. This is sort of like competing trenches, like in trench warfare, World War I sort of thing. Yeah, a ditch, because my daughter just asked, why would you build a ditch? A ditch it's like a moat, essentially, except it doesn't have water in it. But think about like when you build a ditch, it makes the wall, if you build a ditch on the far side of the wall, it makes the wall twice as tall to defend. I think I drew a picture of that someplace. Oh yeah, we go. Yeah, there. Yeah, so you have your ditch and your wall. Okay. So, hostes maximo clamore. And do you want to just translate and I'll help you out?
Okay. So the enemies with the great shouts.
Mm-hmm. Good. And you know, like nice use of the ablative there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, 1 second. I'm writing notes. Okay. What is secuti?
Secuti is just like secute, like just as, or as if.
Okay.
And part here looks like it should be pars partus, but it's actually partior, which is to obtain. I'm sorry, parior. It's a deponent verb to obtain. And this is the participle form.
Okay.
So if we notice this here, a nice ablative absolute.
Got it. So how do you translate that with this, like with the just as or as if?
Yeah, I would say like just as if victory,
Like having been obtained.
yam, and again, yam with the perfect. I mean, we naturally always have to translate as now, but with the perfect, it carries that meaning of already.
Got it. Already and
Yeah, this also has a meaning of, I mean, it can mean to explore, but it also can mean to gain. So both of these are similar. So what's the difference? I don't know. They're very similar. So victory having been obtained and gotten, or having been produced. Something like that.
okay.
They both carry that meaning of having been gained, having already been produced and gained. What did they do? Torres testudines agere scalis volum astudere caperunt.
So is co-apparent, is that like gathered?
It's they began.
Oh, okay. So they began to um drive
Mm-hmm.
and
Remember these towers and the testudines? The testudines are these sheds that could be, they're siege sheds, but they could be moved.
okay.
And the siege towers can also be moved. And so when he says they began to drive, he really means that like they're driving them towards them. They're moving them towards them.
Okay. So are those both the direct objects, the tourists and the
Exactly. Yeah.
okay. So they began to drive or to move the towers and the seed sheds and then to is that like ascend, like climb the walls and
A scala would be like scala would be could be like steps, but really the it's ladders.
okay. Got it.
We can visualize here that they're sort of moving the towers, they're moving the sheds, all of these siege equipment to them because they think that the Roman camps down fire, this is their time to attack. And so they start also popping up ladders up against the wall to climb the wall. They began to climb the wall with ladders.
Oh, I see, with ladders. Okay.
Aut tanta militum virtus atque ea praesentia animi fuit. But, and notice the tanta and ut.
Mm-hmm.
What does that show?
Is that like that's like the so word? So is it purpose?
No, purpose doesn't have a so word. That's just
Oh.
going to have the ut. What is it that has the so word? It was so big that.
Oh, a result.
That's a result clause. Yeah, and the taunt is describing virtues here. So great was the
virtue.
Virtue. And when Caesar says virtue, what virtue is he talking about?
Oh, like is it like courage?
Yeah, courage, bravery. And again, if you were translating this, you certainly could translate as virtue, but you could also translate as bravery, because that's what Caesar really means. So great was the virtue militum
Of the soldiers?
atque ea presentia animi.
Um, and
What does it look like?
present,
Animi?
like mind.
Yeah, we use the same phrase, and that presence of mind, meaning that they're like so focused, right? And Fuit, here's our verb for both of those. So great was the virtue and the presence of mind of the virtue of the soldiers and their presence of mind, that
Um,
cum undique flama torrentur. Oh,
um,
check this out. It's a circumstantial clause inside a result clause. That's fun. I love crouched subjunctive clauses. Oh, torreo is to burn.
okay. So like when the flame like had burned on all sides.
Yeah, except that this is passive.
So when all sides had been burned by the flame.
It's this, take it as the soldiers. They were burning on all sides
With flame,
by the flame.
flame.
Maybe they were being burned on all sides by the flames.
Okay.
Maxima telorum multitudine primerentur. Oh, and hey, this is also, both of these verbs are working with that cum.
Okay.
This is also part of when this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, passive.
Got it. What is, I don't know what primurant.
Premo primere pressi pressus.
Oh, to press. So when they had been pressed, um, um, like by a great number of soldiers
Not of soldiers, but
of spears.
spears, of weapons.
Okay.
One thing I would say, this is the imperfect, so keep it in that it's happening at the same time as their presence of mind. So when they were being roasted on all sides by flames, when they were being pressed by a great number of spears, and when they were, or when they intelligerent,
Like they were like aware.
yeah, they were aware. And what were they aware? That. And now this is, oh, check this out. Now we have an indirect statement inside a circumstantial clause, inside a result clause. And so they're aware of what?
They're aware that all of oh god.
What was that special meaning of impedimenta when we're talking about soldiers?
Like foot soldiers?
No, it's like literally impedimenta would be like hindrances. But when we're talking about an army, it means like baggage.
It means what?
Baggage, like
Baggage?
luggage and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Supplies. When all of their baggage and omnes fortunas,
All of their fortune?
conflagrare.
Oh, was on fire.
Yeah. So they are, what's happening to the soldiers? They are being roasted by flames, they're being pressed by weapons, and they know that behind them, all of their stuff, all of their goods are being burned.
Mm-hmm.
So so we have a three-part sort of coon clause here of all of the things that are happening to the soldiers. Now we're returning to our base like result clause. They had such a presence of mind that non modo de me grandi causa de wallo discaderet nemo sed paene ne respiceret quidem quisquam actum omnes acerime fortissime pugnarent. So that non modo said, this is a very, like Cicero uses this a lot. Well, non modo said etiam. We don't have the etiam here, but non modo said.
Is it like not only but?
Exactly.
Okay.
So not only did nemo descaderet,
Like, did no one like go like flee?
oh yeah, depart.
Depart. Okay.
De,
From the walls.
de migrandi causa. What is de migrandi?
Oh, it says to depart.
It knows the ending.
Is it a gerund?
It is a gerund. And a gerund with causa shows purpose.
Got it.
Oh, and by the way, like if you don't know what this means, then take off your prefix and we get migrare, like migrate.
Uh-huh.
So this is like to move down from.
Got it.
For the sake of moving away, right? No one departed from the wall for the sake of moving away. Said Paine.
Like, but rather.
Paine almost.
Okay, but almost.
Quisquam. Almost anyone ne respiceret.
Okay, but almost anyone. Hold on.
What's respicio? Well, what's specto spectare?
That's like to catch sight of.
Yeah, but respicio would be.
Oh, to like look back.
Yeah, to look back. Almost no one looked back. And quidem, indeed. Indeed, almost no one looked back. So they are so brave and there's of such a presence of mind that even though they're being sort of roasted with flames themselves, they're being pressed by spears, and they know that all their goods are burning behind them. He said, not only did no one leave their positions in the wall, but hardly anyone even looked back. Like they didn't even care. This is really Caesar praising the bravery of these Roman soldiers. Again, to a Roman audience that he's writing to. Actum omnes pugnarent.
So Pugnaret, that's battle, right?
Yeah.
So like they were.
It's still part of our result clause. Omnes pugnarent.
Like they all fought. Or they.
Acerime fortissime quae.
quickly or like quickest and bravest.
Yeah, well, Aker is more of like sharp or fierce.
Okay.
So, very fiercely. That's superlative.
Okay. Very fiercely and very bravely.
Very bravely.
Okay.
Okay, do you have any questions so far?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Hic dies nostris longe gravissimus fuit.
Like this day was our most grave.
Longe is an adverb form here. I would say like by far.
Okay.
This day was by far the most grave. Nostris. In what case is nostris here?
Is it like dative?
It is dative, yeah. It was the gravest for our men. This is what we describe as the dative of reference.
Got it.
Sed tamen hunc adventum habuit. Habuit hunc adventum. And the subject of habuit here is really still the day. The day had hunc eventum.
It had this event.
This event, and by event it means like outcome.
Oh, okay.
But it however had this event, this outcome. And what is the outcome? Ut eodia maximus numerus hostium honorator atque interficeretur.
So that this day.
Yeah, and you notice the ablative there, or ablative of time on this day.
On this day. Oh my gosh. Are they saying that they killed and wounded the greatest number of enemy?
Yeah, pretty much. But make sure you keep it passive. The greatest number of enemies were wounded and killed. The subject here is that maximus numerus.
Got it.
So it had this event that on this day, the greatest number of enemies were wounded and were killed. Let's see. Ut se sub ipso valo constipaverant recessumque primus ultimi non dabant. So that
they
constipaverant.
Oh, crowd together in?
Yeah, they were crowded together.
Crowded together.
Oh, they crowded together. They had crowded themselves together.
Under their walls?
Yeah, although it's not their wall, it's the wall, the wall itself. And this is the Roman wall that they're attacking. They were so crowded, they crowded themselves so much under the wall. And recessum, this is a retreat. The subject here is ultimate.
Got it.
The last ones, non dabant recessum.
So the last ones did not give retreat first?
To the first, that's data.
Oh.
The first are the ones that are right up against the wall, right? The last are the ones who are behind them in the back. So the ones who are pressing from the back are pressing forward and the ones in the front can't retreat when things get hairy.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Essentially, like and then they become sitting ducks, and they become very pressed against the wall, and it's just a bit chaos for the Belgians.
Got it.
I love, and then he's going to end this section with this just beautiful like story. Beautiful. I don't know. It's like very, very Roman. Like, let's get him, sir. Story. Palum quidem intermissa flama et quodam loci turi ad acta et contingente valum tertiae cohortes centuriones quae exeo. Well, it's a little bit. Indeed, a little bit.
Indeed. Okay. A little bit. Is that like sent between?
Yeah, and maybe just what's the better word? Like the sense is like the flames stopped. The flames were sort of I don't know, what's intermitto? Like literally sent between, but pause.
Oh, like intermission?
Like intermission, right?
Oh.
Indeed, the flames were sort of stopped a little bit. Maybe paused a little bit. The flames having paused a little bit. That's an ablative absolute. And in a certain place.
In a certain place, that would be like the towers.
Ad acta. And Tori here is ablative as well. It's a kind of a weird I stem that has an I in the ablative. So this is another ablative absolute. Now, ad acta, again, not a word you might recognize, except if we take that prefix off and then we get acta, which means, what's the root word of that?
I don't know. I don't know that.
It's from ago agere. Ago agere egi octus.
Got it. So like to drive towards, like to
Yeah,
drive.
adego would be to drive towards. So the tower, and in a certain place, a tower having been, I guess it's singular, a tower having been driven towards, and contingente volume. Actually, that whole thing's an ablative absolute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So in a certain place, a tower having been driven forward and touching
the wall.
Tertii cohortis centuriones tertii cohortis.
Centurion of the third cohort.
Yeah, centurions of the third cohort. Ex eo loco.
Oh, from this place.
From this place, quo stabant.
Who was standing?
Yeah, or maybe, and the quo is referring to the place, so maybe where they were standing.
Oh, got it.
Recaserunt.
We just did
Cato cadere cassi casorus. Always to go.
Oh, to go from?
To go back, yeah. They receded. They retreated, right? They retreated from that place in which they were standing. Suos quae omnes removerunt.
And like they like all were removed.
Oh, but keep it active.
They removed all
Suos.
of themselves.
All of theirs.
All
And
of theirs.
What is the Suos referring to?
The third cohort?
Yeah, exactly. It's like these are their men, right? So the centurions of the third cohort stepped back from the place where they were standing, and they removed all of their men. So this is where a tower has sort of approached, and they retreat a little bit. Nutu vocibusque holstes, troire wellant, vocare caperunt.
Okay. Hold on. So they began to speak,
Yeah, or to call.
to call the enemy.
Yeah, the enemies. And how did they begin to call the enemies? Nutu vocibusque. This is our ablative showing how they do it. And
So,
nutus here is like a nod.
okay, so with a nod and voice.
And their voices, yeah.
Voices.
And like you can just imagine them. So these Roman soldiers had sort of backed up, and they give the Belgians space for their tower to come up, and with a nod and with a nod in their voices, they're urging them on. Here is what's happening.
Got it.
They're not retreating because they're afraid. They're retreating in order to give the Belgians space. With a nod and with voices, they call to the enemies, "Si wellant intro ire."
Like if they wish to go into.
Yeah, if they wish to enter, like you want to come onto the wall, just come on. Quorum progredi alsus est nemo.
Like of which no one.
Alsus est.
Oh, of which no one had dared to enter.
Yeah, to advance. No one of which, meaning the Belgians. So the Belgians push this tower up, and the Romans just kind of back up and say, "Yeah, come on." And then the Belgians are like, "Actually, no," and so they don't get off of the siege tower. Tum ex omni parte.
So then, out of all parts.
Yeah, from every side. Lapidibus conjectis.
Like, is that like throw?
Yeah, and you know it's the ablative, so we have another ablative absolute.
Oh, okay. So, is it stone?
I don't know how this is spelled. Lapis, lapidus. I think it's actually an I.
Yeah, I think it's an I in the notes. So with stones having been thrown.
Yeah.
From the crowd.
This then disturbed by thrown stones from all sides, from every side.
Mm-hmm.
Turis,
the tower.
Sucensa est.
Like
the root word here is kensa. Kendo kendare.
Oh, to set fire.
Yeah. The tower, and it's perfect and passive, so the tower was lit on fire. So they step back, and then they're like, "Come on!" And then like no one comes out, so they just start throwing stones and light the siege tower on fire.
Oh. Okay.
Isn't that just, it's just one of those like fantastic like Caesar in general will go from these like broad discussions about the bravery of the men, and then he'll give sort of a specific example of the bravery where you just get this like crazy. Think about a nice example of this would be in the as the Romans in Book 4 when they're trying to take the shore in Britain, and you have he's talking about these sort of large movements, and then he shifts to discuss the specifically the eagle bearer of the 10th Legion and how he jumps off. He likes to do this to sort of highlight examples of the like specific examples of bravery, to move from the sort of platitudes to the specific. And we're actually going to the very next section that we'll look at next Tuesday is this relatively long section you can see, chapter 4, and it involves these two figures of Polo and Varenus, Titus Polo and Lucius Varenus. And even have like dialogue between them in this very sort of descriptive exchange that we get between these figures. Interestingly enough, and I'll mention this, I'm sure, again on Tuesday, but when HBO did a series called Rome, it was like at least like 3 or so seasons of this sort of series about this drama that took place in the 1st century, like right around the time of Caesar. It involved Caesar, but the two main characters are named Polo and Varenus after this little passage. So,
that's interesting. And
okay,
then,
so, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. Do we only have to get through 48?
Yep.
And then we're done?
No, not quite. So 48, and then we have a section in book 6 that we're going to read.
Oh, got it.
The book 6 section is actually really it's totally different. It has to do with the ethnography of Gaul, and it's a pretty engaging little section. So
oh yeah, that's the part we skipped. I forgot.
it is, yeah. So, but that's a good section to kind of finish off on because it's easy and it's interesting. It's not just battle terms. It's like about religious customs and social customs and things like that.
Okay, got it. Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Well, I will see you on, again, there's no meeting tomorrow, so I will see you on Tuesday.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.